Another gruesome discovery in Canada. 182 unmarked Indigenous graves have been found close to a former Catholic school in the province of British Columbia. It's prompted the Prime Minister now to ask Pope Francis to make amends over the Church's historic role in the forced assimilation of the community. The discoveries have marked July the 1st celebrations for Canada Day, marking the day when Canada became a country.
Piece of news that there are going to be meetings with Indigenous leaders with His Holiness. There have been meetings in the past with popes. I really hope that this time it will lead towards the Pope coming onto Canadian soil and apologizing directly for the responsibility that the Catholic Church shares in this part of our history.
Not to cry anymore. You just get harder. And yeah, you learn to shut down.
It was a genocide, and you look at the whole point of the residential school was to take the Indian out of the Indian, to get rid of our language, to get rid of our culture, and children died, and it's coming out now, and but my answer to that is we are still here. We are practicing language. We practice our culture. So it did not kill us, but we are coming back. Every First Nation person is feeling the impact of the residential schools. I had my grandmother attended, my grandfather attended. Thankfully, my mother didn't have to attend, but she still feels the impacts on it on a daily basis. The Reconciliation Commission had 94 calls to action that have not been actioned to date, and they came out many years ago. I'm hoping Canada will take the initiative and start looking at those seriously, and then start working with First Nations and just be there. We need them to be there.
Well, there's mounting anger among the country's Indigenous community at the Catholic Church now. At least 6 churches across Western Canada have recently been badly damaged or destroyed. Police are treating the fires as suspicious, they say could be arson. RT's Caleb Mopin's got more on the story.
Now, this comes on the heels of a number of discoveries of unmarked graves near the residential schools operated by the Roman Catholic Church, where Indigenous children were forced to attend. At this point, we can recall that there was, back in May, 751 bodies that were discovered, unmarked grave sites, and that was in Saskatchewan. There was another site unearthed with 215 bodies, the latest having 182 unmarked graves. And these are surrounding the residential schools as details continue to emerge about what went on at these facilities. And a lot of anger is rising. Now, there have been 4 Roman Catholic churches located in Indigenous areas of British Columbia that have recently been burned. There have been some other church burnings in other parts of the country as anger is clearly rising as revelations about these residential schools for Indigenous children continue to surface. The Prime Minister of Canada coming forward and calling on the Roman Catholic Church to take responsibility for the horrendous things that are being revealed. Certainly an ugly chapter in Canada's history.
Indigenous counsellor and former residential school student Cynthia Desjardins told us about her work trying to identify unmarked graves.
We have started work on our unmarked graves in 2018. At that time, we identified 35 of them, which means we didn't do our whole area. We only did a portion of it. So we expect that there will be more in our areas too. It's extremely tragic that We've had to identify these graves, but our elders have cried, our people have cried, and we need to know where all these children are buried. I'm a second generation residential school student too. I attended in the 80s myself. We couldn't follow our own religions. We couldn't speak our language. We couldn't do our traditional ceremonies, or you would be beaten. You would be beaten or thrown in jail. And that's where I come from. And I think every First Nation person would say that that wasn't right. And how many of us died because of residential schools? You know,